Hi there, this is Miss Knight. Welcome back to my channel. I am going to be reading Chapter 10, The Shell and the Glasses of Lord of the Flies. This is part 1 of that video. Piggy eyed the advancing figure carefully. Nowadays, he sometimes found that he saw more clearly if he removed his glasses and shifted the one lens to the other eye. But even through the good eye, after what had happened, Ralph remained unmistakably Ralph. He came now out of the coconut trees, limping, dirty, with dead leaves hanging from his shock of yellow hair. One eye was slit in his puffy cheek, and a great scab had formed on his right knee. He paused for a moment and peered at the figure on the platform. "Piggy, are you the only one left? There's some little uns. They don't count. No big uns? Oh, Sam and Eric. They're collecting wood. Nobody else? Not that I know of." Ralph climbed up onto the platform carefully. The coarse grass was still worn away where the assembly used to sit. The fragile white conch still gleamed by the polished seat. Ralph sat down in the grass facing the chief's seat and the conch. Piggy knelt at his left, and for a long minute there was silence. So Ralph does not sit in the usual chief's seat now. After the experience at Jack's camp and the killing of Simon, he no longer seems to feel like he's fit to be chief. At last, Ralph cleared his throat and whispered something. Piggy whispered back, "What you say?" Ralph spoke up, "Simon." Piggy said nothing, but nodded solemnly. They continued to sit, gazing with impaired sight at the chief's seat and the glittering lagoon. The green light and the glossy patches of sunshine played over their befouled bodies. At length, Ralph got up and went to the conch. He took the shell caressingly with both hands and knelt, leaning against the trunk. So we see Ralph holding on to the conch as a symbol of society and civilization and authority, even now that the conch has lost all meaning. In the previous chapter, we saw Ralph kind of threaten to use the conch and call an assembly meeting to bring people away from Jack's tribe back into his own. And Jack was like, "So go for it. There's nothing. We're not going to hear it, and we're not going to listen to it." So it's really lost all of its power to compel people to come to Ralph and listen to what Ralph has to say. But he clings to it all the same. He really is a boy who has a lot of respect for the adult world, for civilization, for society, and so he's holding on to it even though it's lost all power. I also really wanted to point out the sentence before, the sunshine on the befouled bodies of Ralph and Piggy. They've now shown their dark side, committed this murder with everyone else, and so just like all the other hunters on the island, they are now a part of this darkness. "Piggy, huh? What are we going to do?" Piggy nodded at the conch. "You could call an assembly." Ralph laughed sharply as he said the word, and Piggy frowned. "You're still chief." Ralph laughed again. "You are, over us." "I got the conch." "Ralph, stop laughing like that. Look, there ain't no need, Ralph. What are the others going to think?" At last, Ralph stopped. He was shivering. So Ralph's going a little crazy here. "Piggy, huh? That was Simon. You said that before." "Piggy, huh? That was murder." "You stop it," said Piggy shrilly. "What good are you doing talking like that?" So Ralph is trying to bring in civilization and authority back into the island. He's calling what happened to Simon murder, which it was, that's true, but the word doesn't seem to apply here on the island where morality has kind of fallen away and any idea of kind of like laws or rules or people who are going to enforce those rules, that's kind of gone. And Piggy is a very pragmatic person. He just thinks about like what's practical, and this idea of right and wrong and morality doesn't fit in for him because he's like, that's not helpful. That's not going to keep us safe and keep us focused on getting rescued. He jumped to his feet and stood over Ralph. It was dark. There was that bloody dance. There was lightning and thunder and rain. We was scared. "I wasn't scared," said Ralph slowly. I don't know what I was." He was excited. He was into the hunt. "We was scared," said Piggy excitedly. "Anything might have happened. It wasn't what you said." He was gesticulating, searching for a formula. Oh, Piggy. Ralph's voice, low and stricken, stopped Piggy's gestures. He bent down and waited. Ralph, cradling the conch, rocked himself to and fro. Don't you understand, Piggy? The things we did. He may still be... No. Perhaps he was only pretending. Piggy's voice trailed off at the sight of Ralph's face. You were outside the circle. You never really came in. Didn't you see what they did? There was a loathing, and at the same time, a kind of feverish excitement in his voice. Didn't you see, Piggy? Not all that well. I only got one eye now. You ought to know that, Ralph. So this is really important. We see Ralph, just like several chapters ago, we saw Jack, both excited and disgusted at the blood on his hands from his first pig kill. Now we see Ralph kind of both excited and disgusted at what they did with Simon. He is feeling this power and control and triumph that he gets over causing pain to someone else, and he's horrified by that, but it's also exciting and thrilling and a little bit addictive. Jack's certainly addicted to it. It's also really important, I think, we see Ralph kind of distance himself. Didn't you see what they did? And we'll see more of that as this scene goes on. But we also see now that Piggy was on the outside of the circle. He wasn't as involved with what was going on, and maybe that could be because he was kind of left out of it because, he's an outsider and the other boys kind of looked down on him, so maybe he wasn't invited to participate as fully as Ralph was. It could also be physical incapability, like his asthma and his unathleticness kept him on the outside of that circle, and we don't really know which one it was, but he didn't participate as fully as the others. And he continues to be an outsider to the group at large. Keep that in mind. Okay. Ralph continued to rock to and fro. It was an accident, said Piggy suddenly. That's what it was, an accident. His voice shrilled again. Coming in the dark. He had no business crawling like that out of the dark. He was batty. He asked for it. He gesticulated widely again. It was an accident. So that sounds really harsh and horrible, right, to blame Simon for his own murder. And it is. But it's very Piggy, and not because it's mean or it's cruel, but because he's searching for some sort of explanation, some scientific, logical explanation for why this happened. And what he comes on is Simon was behaving in a way that was not logical and rational, and people got scared, and that's what happened. That's not true. He's discounting, again, the emotional side of things. But that's what he's sticking to. You didn't see what they did. Look, Ralph, we've got to forget this. We can't do no good thinking about it, see? I'm frightened of us. I want to go home. Oh, God, I want to go home. It was an accident, said Piggy stubbornly, and that's that. He touched Ralph's bare shoulder, and Ralph shuddered at the human contact. And look, Ralph, Piggy glanced around quickly, then leaned close. Don't let on we was in that dance. Not to Sam and Eric. But we were, all of us. Piggy shook his head. Not us till last. They never noticed in the dark. Anyway, you said I was only on the outside. So was I, muttered Ralph. I was on the outside, too. Piggy nodded eagerly. That's right. We was on the outside. We never done nothin'. We never seen nothin'. Piggy paused, then went on. We'll live on our own, the 4 of us. 4 of us. We aren't enough to keep a fire burning. We'll try. See, I lit it. Sam and Eric came dragging a great log out of the forest. They dumped it by the fire and turned to the pool. Ralph jumped on his feet. Hi, you two! The twins checked a moment, then walked on. They're going to bathe, Ralph. Better get it over. The twins were very surprised to see Ralph. They flushed and looked past him into the air. Hello, fancy meeting you, Ralph. We've just been in the forest to get wood for the fire. We got lost last night. Ralph examined his toes. You got lost after the... Piggy cleaned his lenses. After the feast, said Sam in a stifled voice. Eric nodded. Yes, after the feast. We left early, said Piggy quickly, because we were tired. So did we, very early. We were very tired. Sam touched the scratch on his forehead and then hurriedly took his hand away. Eric fingered his split lip. Obviously, they were not. They were involved in the group, too, because they have these little injuries. Yes, we were very tired, repeated Sam, so we left early. Was it a good... The air was heavy with unspoken knowledge. Sam twisted, and the obscene words shot out of him. Dance? Memory of the dance that none of them had attended shook all 4 boys convulsively. That's such a great sentence. I love that sentence. We left early. Okay, so they're all in denial, right? They're all like, we cannot cope with this information. We can't cope with what we've done. We're just going to pretend like it never happened. All right, back to the other boys. When Roger came to the neck of land that joined Castle Rock to the mainland, he was not surprised to be challenged. He had reckoned, during the terrible night, on finding at least some of the tribe holding out against the horrors of the island in the safest place. The voice rang out sharply from on high, where the diminishing crags were balanced one on another. Halt! Who goes there? Roger. Advance, friend. Roger advanced. You could see who I was. The chief said we got to challenge everyone. Roger peered up. You couldn't stop me coming if I wanted. Couldn't I? Climb up and see. Roger clambered up the ladder-like cliff. Look at this. A log had been jammed under the topmost rock, and another lever under that. Robert leaned lightly on the lever, and the rock groaned. A full effort would send the rock thundering down to the neck of land. Roger admired. He's a proper chief, isn't he? Robert nodded. He's going to take us hunting. So here we see Roger's idea of a proper chief, somebody who has weapons, somebody who has guards, somebody who uses violence to control. He jerked his head in the direction of the distant shelters, where a thread of white smoke climbed up the sky. Roger, sitting on the very edge of the cliff, looked somberly back at the island as he worked with his fingers at a loose tooth. His gaze settled on the top of the distant mountain, and Robert changed the unspoken subject. He's going to beat Wilfred. What for? Robert shook his head doubtfully. I don't know, he didn't say. He got angry and made us tie Wilfred up. He giggled excitedly. He's been tied up for hours, waiting. But didn't the chief say why? I never heard him. Sitting on the tremendous rocks in the torrid sun, Roger received the news as an illumination. He ceased to work at his tooth and sat still, assimilating the possibilities of irresponsible authority. Then, without another word, he climbed down the back of the rocks toward the cave and the rest of the tribe. Okay, so the way Roger is questioning Robert about why Wilfred is tied up makes it sound like Roger might feel sorry for him and be like, well, that's not cool. He tied him up without a reason. What's the point of that? But what he's really doing, and we know this because of the way that Roger's behaved before now, showing that he's a pretty sadistic kid. He's really interested in violence. He wants to be where that kind of violent action is. Suggests that he's asking these questions to kind of see what kind of ruler or leader Jack's going to be. And what he's learned, this line I think is so creepy, what he's learned is that that Jack is an irresponsible authority. He's somebody with power who is not going to use it to help people or to keep people safe. He's just going to use it however benefits himself the most. And Roger is like, this is great. This opens up a lot of possibilities, because all his life he's lived in society, in British society, where he has to hide his love of violence and interest in hurting people. And he's like, hey, under this ruler, under Jack, I do not have to do that. And we've already seen him take on some responsibilities, stealing the fire. He was the one who speared the pig in that way that we talked at length about in class. And we're going to see him take on more and more responsibilities as torturer, executioner, that kind of thing. And so he really turns into kind of the person who does a lot of Jack's dirty work. And that's really fits his personality and temperament. Okay. The chief was sitting there, naked to the waist, his face blocked out in white and red. The tribe lay in a semicircle before him. The newly beaten and untied Wilfred was sniffling noisily in the background. Roger squatted with the rest. Tomorrow, went on the chief, we shall hunt again. He pointed at this savage and that with his spear. Some of you will stay here to improve the cave and defend the gate. I shall take a few hunters with me and bring back meat. The defenders of the gate will see that the others don't sneak in. A savage raised his hand, and the chief turned a bleak, painted face towards him. Why should they try to sneak in, chief? The chief was vague but earnest. They will. They'll try to spoil things we do. So the watchers at the gate must be careful. And then, really quick, there's a really clear parallel here with they'll try to spoil things we do, which Jack says, to last chapter when the Lord of the Flies tells Simon that Simon shouldn't try to stop the fun on the island. Like, we're going to have fun on this island, and you cannot stop it, and you shouldn't try. So now kind of Jack is taking that role. The chief paused. They saw a triangle of startling pink dart out, pass along his lips, and vanish again. And then the beast might try to come in. You remember how he crawled. The semicircle shuddered and muttered in agreement. He came disguised. He may come again, even though we gave him the head of our kill to eat. So watch and be careful. Okay, these boys aren't dumb. I mean, some of them are young, but they know it was Simon, and they know that they killed Simon. But we have Jack acting as a dictator, as he so often does. And one of the things that dictators do to keep power is they control the truth, and they control the narrative. And so he's like, that wasn't Simon. He doesn't say Simon's name, obviously. That would be too close to the truth. But he says, the beast came in disguise last night. So what you thought happened is not what happened. We attacked the beast. It came in disguise, and it might come again. So he's doing a lot with the beast. He's making it so that the beast is, again, something that they are afraid of, and they need Jack as a leader to keep them safe, as well as kind of releasing them from feeling guilt about killing Simon by saying it was the beast. And the boys follow this, because if they don't, then they're admitting that they killed Simon, and they're not ready for that to happen. Stanley lifted his forearm off the rock and held up an interrogative finger. Well, but didn't we? He squirmed and looked down. No. In the silence that followed, each savage flinched away from his individual memory. No, how could we kill it? Half relieved, half daunted by the implication of further terrors, the savages murmured again. So they're relieved that they don't have to feel guilt. Jack's kind of absolved them of feeling guilt for killing Simon. But at the same time, in the back of their minds, they know we killed a person, and we gotta watch out, because perhaps another of us could be killed in the same way. I gotta make sure it's not me. So leave the mountain alone, said the chief solemnly, and give it the head if you go hunting. Stanley flicked his finger again. I expect the beast disguised itself. Perhaps, said the chief. A theological speculation presented itself. We'd better keep on the right side of him anyhow. You can't tell what he might do. The tribe considered this, and then were shaken, as if by a flaw of wind. The chief saw the effect of his words and stood abruptly. But tomorrow we'll hunt, and when we've got meat, we'll have a feast. Bill put up his hand. Chief? Yes. What'll we use for lighting the fire? The chief's blush was hidden by the white and red clay. Into his uncertain silence, the tribe spilled their murmur once more. Then the chief held up his hand. We shall take fire from the others. Listen, tomorrow we'll hunt and get meat. Tonight, I'll go along with 2 hunters. Who will come? Maurice and Roger put up their hands. Maurice? Yes, chief. Where was their fire? Back by the old place by the fire rock. The chief nodded. The rest of you can go to sleep as soon as the sun sets. But us 3, Maurice, Roger, and me, we've got work to do. We'll leave just before sunset. Maurice put up his hand. But what happens if we meet? The chief waved his objections aside. We'll keep along the sands. Then, if he comes, we'll do our dance again. Only the 3 of us? Again, the murmur swelled and died away. Okay, I'm going to stop there for part 1. Part 2 will be on the next video.